The tension point that we're here to talk about today is the Kinder Morgan pipeline. The underlying fundamental issue for Canada is the fact that since the beginning of this country, they have systematically disregarded Aboriginal rights, Aboriginal peoples, and exploited the lands and resources that are our peoples for others' enjoyment.
We have rights as a nation which have not been met or honored by this government. The Trudeau government ran on promises of changing their relationship with First Nations, and he has completely failed at that regard.
The Burrard Inlet, the Port of Vancouver, was never designed to become a major oil port. And clearly this is an ill-conceived project on the part of Kinder Morgan.
The National Energy Board review process was deeply flawed, and it was not appropriate. The Prime Minister promised during the election that he would redo the process and make Kinder Morgan resubmit. He broke that promise, and he's moving ahead with this pipeline. By saying he will force this pipeline through British Columbia, he's disregarding his own process. He's disregarding the lack of consent, both from Indigenous peoples and non-Indigenous peoples in British Columbia. He's failing Canada, and he needs to take a step back, and he needs to make sure that he is doing what's right for all Canadians.
The reality is that these governments have quietly, behind the scenes, been approving what oil companies do without putting in the proper protections for our citizens or considering the long-term and generational impacts of the things that they are doing. There is no strategy, there is no national plan. This is simply obedience to the corporate will.